As yoga teachers, we sometimes totally overcomplicate how we make asana accessible for our students. We're trying to get them to resemble the look of the pose, and that's the problem, because the look of the pose doesn't provide the benefit. It is the angle, the action, the way one part of the body is in relation to another part of the body. These are the kinds of things that we want to get them to focus on when we modify something for them. And that is why I'm going to share with you a very simple, like painfully simple process that you can go through if you find that you need to make a pose more accessible for your students, or if your students are saying, I can't do XYZ pose. They know that they can't, or else maybe they tried to do it in this very kind of rigid, aligned way, and it wasn't working for them. So we're going to look at something like side angle for that. So what we typically do when we get into a side angle to modify for our students is we get them to use that block, and then they can rest on the block in order to, make that modification and have that pose be more accessible. But as soon as we add the block in, then there is often a laxity within the body, which means that they're not able to support themselves there, which means that a pose like this becomes very inaccessible and very unsustainable. It's not about longevity in the body anymore. So we get rid of that. And instead what we do is we start from the very beginning. So we just get our students to start here. If that's okay, then we get them to move on to the next bit. Here. That's okay. We get them to move on to the next bit. And you can choose what order you take this in when you teach it. And then they bend into this front leg. Now, maybe this is the point where they feel, yeah, that's where I feel restricted. Then we know here doesn't go anywhere else. This is where they stay. And not in a place where they're feeling there's restriction, but shy of that, just away from that, where they feel they can still breathe. Everything still feels accessible for them rather than kind of sitting in their discomfort. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of unfamiliarity and challenge in the body, but we don't need them to go into a place where it is uncomfortable and painful. Then we get them to move into some of the top layers. Again, you can do this in any order. You're just exploring the layers of the pose and then identifying, oh, this is where you might need to stay. This is where your body is telling you this is your pose today. So you might get them then to lengthen and extend the body out to the side. Maybe that's where they need to take some time to just stay or remain. Again, any order is fine. So you might not tip the body. You might just work on tipping the arms here first. Yes, you might even work on moving the body in this direction first. So there's a lot of different ways that we can approach this, but we're looking at what is the journey from the initial point to maybe what the pose might look like, and then we're finding different ways in which our students can maintain one of those positions or a few of those positions together. So from there, you might get them to tip. And then from here, this is maybe when they say, okay, that's where I'm feeling that it's a bit uncomfortable. Okay, let's pull away from that a bit. How does that? Oh, that's great, cool. Okay, this is your side angle pose. This is where you're going to stay. Now, if they do feel that there is more accessible in their bodies, then maybe they'll start to lower down and they'll start to reach and they'll start to reach and they'll start to reach and then they'll start to reach. And maybe that's it. Right? There are no magical benefits in side angle when your student touches the floor, touches a block. In fact, it is the opposite, because often they're relying on that support structure to hold them up instead of utilizing their own body structure to hold them up. And when they do that, then they start to force their body into a position that it's not actually able to go on its own. So just go in little snapshots. Get them to try and test and play with different ways of entering gradually into the pose. Snapshot, 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 snapshot. And then from there, they can begin to decipher, okay, this is the position where I feel like I can hold. Yeah, there's a bit of challenge there. I can feel my body's working, but it's not going to the point where either it's painful or there is a lot of discomfort in my body to the point that I can't breathe. Instead, we want them to be able to maintain. So just go in little layers, then get them to stop where they feel that they can maintain with calm, relaxed breathing. And this approach is super useful. You can use it for any single pose to make that pose more accessible. And within that accessibility, that also tells you what the modification will be for that person. So forget about supporting the body with the props in a position like this. Just go into the entry so that the body has the stability to support itself, especially in something like a side angle. And then the person can gradually develop the strength that they need in order to maintain that position in their bodies. Start testing this out with any kind of pose that you feel your students are struggling with. Get them to start from the very beginning of the pose, the initial point of the pose, the entry, the entry, the entry, the entry, and then they determine where they need to pause, where they need to just play and exist within what layer of the pose, because otherwise they're just going to feel like they can't do the pose, they're just going to write it off, dismiss it, and you as a teacher, you probably won't really know how to empower them to attempt it. So just go from the beginning, snapshot by snapshot by snapshot, and in those snapshots, they will find, and you will help them find and discover the modification and the accessibility of that pose that really does work for them. If you found this video useful, make sure that you let me know in the comments and subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this.